welcome back to another episode of Final Boy Status. I will be your host for this episode. I'm really excited because this is actually the first episode of season 3. I had to think because we have so many seasons because we're just that big of a show. But yeah, my name is Lance Lappin. I'll be your host this evening. And always, I am joined by two esteemed gentlemen whom I love dearly, but they get uncomfortable when I say that. Anyway, um, Adam Bone, Senor Hueso himself, and Luke Spooky Howder.
Luckily, I am always uncomfortable, and so don't take it personally.
It's a
Well, thank you.
baseline. It's a baseline of existence for Adam. I don't think you
Yeah.
understand that it's just his lifestyle.
Fair enough.
So when
fair
I get
enough.
comfortable with you, that you should really think about your life choices, honestly.
Like,
that's
what do you
when
mean,
it's
Adam? What's going to happen if you get comfortable?
I just might screw you, and there might be a demon ghost that follows you for the rest of your life. But
What's
I don't know.
what
I'm
kind
just-
of
I'm
things?
just riffing.
promises.
What kind
I'm
of
just
things make you
riffing.
comfortable? Talking like a bubble bath, some nice cup of tea.
I'm just thinking internally when we talk about like levels of comfortability. I'm gonna bring something up that the audience at home probably doesn't know.
Yeah.
But on this podcast are two people who have seen my butt, and not only seen my butt, but saw it like fairly regularly.
Yeah.
Because I had a interesting tendency of. It was started by a friend of the show, Seth Caller, but he had a propensity for sometimes mooning people, and I found that really
Mhm.
funny. So I continued the tradition. I was the only one. I have not seen either of your butts.
Hold on a minute.
Oh, sweet.
Kicking the season off right.
You got to go big, Got to
Yeah.
go.
And with Lanson, it's always big.
Double cheeked up on a Thursday night.
And he's not giving us no wax, no wane. He's going with the full moon,
Whole thing. Yeah.
like the lycanthrope he is. Good to be back.
Yeah.
Good times. It's funny that we talk about this a lot, but I feel like obviously we enjoy doing the show, but I feel like this is also a good excuse for us just to catch up and hang out as friends, just to be like, hey man, what's up? How you doing?
It's literally like it gives me something to put in my schedule. And if somebody
Mhm.
says like, hey, are you available on Wednesday night? I'm like, no.
Yeah, and
I'm deep in
yeah.
production, season 3, guys.
I know.
That's a beautiful feeling to be able to say no to someone asking you to do something.
On a Wednesday night. I tell you, the amount of times I've had to do that, just sorry guys, you didn't talk to my people in time.
There are times where I wonder if this is what adulthood is. Like never
Maybe.
having time to hang out with your friends unless you're doing a podcast.
Jeez.
And you have like a production schedule to keep up with. You're like, no. I've blocked out 3 hours on Wednesday.
We are hanging out.
That's the only way. Oh, goodness. So, welcome back to Final Boy Status. If this is your first time listening to our lovely show, or, it's just been a while, here at Final Boy Status, pretty much our podcast is just dedicated to us getting together as friends, talking about scary movies, and doing pretty much what you guys at home like to do with your friends, just saying, okay, how would I survive this movie? Or I would have done this differently, or I would have done this smarter. So, just having a good chat. And boy, do we have a doozy of an episode for you. We have the fantastic movie. I don't remember what year it came out because I didn't do the research, and I'm just not that type of guy.
2013.
Nice.
I'm the
Nice.
research guy.
The research man himself. But the film that we are referring, or at least I should say I'm referring to, is It Follows.
Yeah.
Fwah.
2014. I lied. I'm so sorry.
You lied to national television that it was 2013. Adam.
You come on the Jay Leno show and you besmirch us like this?
If
Yeah,
I've
what are
learned
you doing, man?
anything from YouTube,
What are you doing?
I just got to stare at the camera and say I'm sorry and I'm good. And not even say I'm sorry sometimes. Just say this happened.
I'm sorry you felt
You
that
can't
way.
be mad.
Hey, you big dumb baby losers out there. You guys said that I said something wrong. Well, I got news for you. I'm a white guy. I can say whatever I want. Anyway, I'm gonna go right back to doing the same thing I've always been doing, and that's YouTube, baby.
Oh yeah.
Oh
I don't
man,
remember if that's allowed on YouTube or not. I feel like I've done that before, and I don't think it was an issue, so it's probably fine.
not yet. It's fine.
You
I've
can
gotten
do
a
whatever
couple
you want
letters,
on
but it's
YouTube.
fine. It's nothing to worry about, guys.
I've just
Couple
said it to our
cease and desist.
team. It'll
Yeah.
fix itself.
Oh
Yeah.
my goodness. Oh man. So Adam, just out
Yeah.
of curiosity, if you wanted
What's
to
up?
open it up a little bit, like why did you want to do this movie, man? Like what was the appeal?
I have a story. So in 2014, I
Nice.
was however old I was, 17, if I did that
22.
quick math right. No. I was 17 in 2014, and I was with a group of friends. Some of them
It's code for his
had
girlfriend.
none of them were my girlfriend. Some of them
Yet.
had
Sorry. Go ahead, Adam.
brought along. We were at Smith's, and there was a Red Box, and we were like, "What should we get at Red Box?" And I saw It Follows, and I was like, "I heard that's a good movie." So we got it, and we brought it back to one of my friend's house. We played it in the basement. She had her 13-year-old cousin with her, and she was just hanging out with us, really chill. We didn't even think about it. We're like, Adam said this movie was supposed to be good. I hadn't seen it before. We popped it in. The movie starts playing. After a couple scenes, this 13-year-old girl is horrified, and she's hiding her face in her blanket, and we're sitting there. We're like, this was a terrible idea. But in our adolescence, we were like, okay, it's just the beginning. Like, it'll get better as the movie goes on.
Oh no.
So this 13-year-old girl sits through the entire movie up until the end, and she's probably still traumatized to this day. I mean, I haven't followed up. I kind of yeah, I don't talk to most of those people anymore, but I hope she's okay. If it was me, I would not be okay because this movie's intense, especially for that young of a person. But I
Oh,
remember
man.
seeing it and being like, "Holy cow, that was a lot." And rewatching it kind of helped me remember those things. But the reason this is all to bring up the reason I thought this movie would be great for this podcast is because it is kind of for me, the fundamental, how could I survive this movie? I remember after it came out, and not a lot of people in my friend group had seen it, but whoever I did, we would talk about like, okay, like you're in It Follows. What do you do? And they're like, oh, I fly across the country. I go overseas. We're all talking with each other. The whole internet was doing this. It's just such a clever idea that forces you to think, what would I do if I was in that situation? Which is perfect for our podcast. So long story, but that's why I chose it. I think it's a great movie to see how we could survive, and I'm very excited to see how you guys what your guys' takes on that are.
Fantastic.
This movie is like the original "snail is coming to kill you" meme.
Right.
I don't know how online you guys are, but I remember like the snail coming to kill you thing, and I gave that way more thought than I should have.
No, I know exactly what you're talking about. You're like the slow, steady, murderous, intense snail.
See, I
What
think
do
in
you
the
do?
original, like, I think the funny thing is, I think in the original hypothetical, it wasn't even a murderous snail. It was just like a poisonous snail, and like, for whatever reason, it's drawn to you, but when you touch it, it poisons you and you die. So it wasn't even like it had it out for
The
you.
intent was all right. It just was
Yeah.
attracted to you.
Mhm.
And honestly, I wish more snails were, but it's just one of those things where it was like inflated over time to like I remember seeing TikToks where it was like people talking about the snail, and the snail sounded like a serial killer, like like a smart, sophisticated serial killer with intention. But I have to say, Adam, you kind of landed on something I was thinking while watching this movie, where it's like you watch this at 17 with a bunch of people that you're not in their lives anymore. I remember thinking to myself while I was watching this movie, the most unrealistic aspect of this movie is expecting us to believe that at 19 or 20 you're still hanging out with the people you grew up with.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point.
Same, like 5 people.
Oh yeah.
However many of them there were. I couldn't be bothered to remember.
Oh man. So Adam, if you were to just kind of like short little snippet what you would find on the back of the DVD, how would you, just for the viewers at home, explain a little bit of what the premise of It Follows is all about?
Absolutely. I will take a crack at it. So the premise goes, girl meets a guy. They're into each other. They've had a couple dates so far. They find themselves in the back of a car. They find themselves having beautiful, beautiful coitus. And
It was beautiful until you said that.
Yeah.
it was beautiful until he brought out the chloroform. And he chloroforms her, ties her up. He says, hey, you have the thing now. You have it. It will follow you. It's always walking. And when it catches you, it will kill you. And then she sees it as a fully nude, scary looking woman. It's real. We saw at the beginning of the movie, it kills someone. So this thing is constantly following this girl until she has sex with someone else, who it then starts following her, will kill the next person, and then come back for her in this weird chain of sex and murder. You can see that at the back of a Blu-ray, I'm pretty sure.
Adam's Memoirs, Sex and Murder.
The chain of
Sums
sex
it
and
up.
murder. That's what the
That's
Fleetwood
it.
Mac song "The Chain" is about, I think.
I think you're right.
Is that the
They were
one with
inspired.
the cranberry juice? I can't remember.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
Sure, why not?
Oh man. All
You've
right.
heard of Yes and. Have you ever heard of Yes?
Yes, but nothing.
Yes, Lanson.
Yes,
right.
but nothing to contribute after.
Yes.
Great thought, Lanson. Thanks.
It doesn't need to follow me.
Maybe I'm following it. Who knows? It better wash its hands. I got some stuff on me too.
I
They
am
can
the one
follow
who
me.
follows.
They can follow me. I'm at Luke Howder on Twitter. I'm easy to find.
Spooky Lukey.
Right now, my Twitter name is Spooky Lukey, and then in parentheses, Slut Era.
Ooh.
It's not even a joke. That's just really what it is.
Ooh, nice. It's a good era.
Yes, Luke. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah. I think the funniest part about this is like I don't have sex, so I'm a slut in theory, but not in practice.
That's cool. Yeah.
Are we all?
Fair enough.
I think I brought this up on the podcast before, but Adam had that great stand-up joke about like I think I'm celibate by choice, but also I've never had to choose celibacy.
No one's asked me. No one's been like, hey, Adam.
Hey, Adam.
Want to do it?
Want to have a little fun? Backseat of a sedan, maybe a little chloroform.
Maybe a wheelchair. We'll see.
Maybe we'll tie you to the wheelchair if we're
It's
feeling...
part of it for me. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Well, oh man. So, as we've been talking a little bit just in general about the movie, why don't we just open it up? What are kind of our general impressions? What do we like? What didn't we like? And just kind of talk about that a little bit. So, Mr. Hottie Howder, what did you think of the movie?
Wow. I mean, I think this movie is great. I think it's got a lot of strong qualities. I think there are criticisms you could make of the movie that are valid. But yeah, I think it's a solid film. Things that stood out to me this watch through. I have seen it before, so I'll just talk about this specific viewing. Things that stood out to me. I read somewhere online that the director wanted the movie to have a really like dreamlike quality. And I think watching the movie through this time, I felt that really strongly more than I have when I watched it in the past. We were talking before the podcast started about how like the adults in the movie are always like just outside of frame, or if their face is in frame, their face is like blurred. And that really is, there's like a dreamlike quality to that where it's like there are oftentimes these like for lack of a better word, like you have these extras in your dreams, right? That are like you can't really remember their face. You don't have a sense of what they look like, but there were people who were like in the background of your dream, and then there were like the main players. I like that this movie did something to capture that. I like that time feels really mysterious in this movie. you have a sense that it's passing, but you have no idea how much time has actually passed. I think like maybe the script is not my favorite. I think the premise is cool. I think it's very cool visually. I think the script could have used another pass, and particularly the characters probably could have used a little more work because I mean, honestly, if you like read me a description of one of the characters, they would all be identical. It's like, they grew up in Detroit. I don't know. Like I don't know what to say about the characters. And I'm gonna kind of I'm gonna go ahead and kind of cut myself off there. I want to leave everybody else something to talk with. So I'll say strong
man.
visuals, really cool concept, maybe second pass at the script, and I really liked the dreamlike quality because that's something I was paying attention this time through. There were a lot of things that reminded me of what it feels like to be having a nightmare. So I appreciated all of that, and I'm gonna go ahead and pass the buck now.
Right on. Mr. Adam, what did you think of the movie?
I'm receiving the buck from Luke.
It's a
I
good buck.
I mean, to echo what Luke said, I love this movie. I think it's awesome. I think the strongest points are the atmosphere, the scenes, like the tension building, the concept, the script. I also agree was left a little to be desired. I I will say, just so I'm not copying everything Luke said, I think the strong point for me was the main girl. She had enough personality for you to care for her, and I think she's really the only character you really care for because you can tell she's just a nice girl that is, I don't know if she's a teenager or she's just young and she's trying to live life and she's in the middle of this thing. Luke's
She's
coming in with some
19.
19.
She's yes. So everyone, sorry. Jay and Greg are 19. Everybody else is 18, and then Hugh, the guy that bones her and gives her the demon, is 21, according to what I read online. So that could be not true, but it was online.
Everything online is true in my book.
Mhm.
So I'll say that her character I liked. I liked her. She was a good enough protagonist to follow through. I never wanted her to die. I never not that she always made the best decisions, but I think she was empathetic. Everyone else I didn't care for. There's all these moments where it's like, ooh, this character is looking at this other character all seductively, like, ooh, I want some of that. And I'm like, I don't like, I'm not feeling this. I do not feel the sexual tension between them at all. It's pointless. However, it didn't drag me out of the movie too much because I think most of this movie is those slow building scenes where you're like, is it coming? Where is it at? Who is it? And that's really where the film shines. And I think that's what you're going to remember after leaving the movie. You're going to forget about the characters in the script, but you're really going to remember looking over your shoulder and saying, is that it? Is that it? And that's where it really shines. So those are my 2 cents.
Very nice. Yeah, and I mean, let's see. I'll probably just copy both of you guys because I just basically piggybacking off you in this podcast.
Yeah.
But yeah, I get that backpack ready. Oh my goodness. Yeah, but I really enjoyed the movie as well. I think some fair critiques on the characters in the script where it's like, okay, let's move on to the next thing, eh? All right. But overall, I one of the things I do like about it is that you have kind of, and we'll get into this more as we talk about the antagonist, but you have kind of a supernatural antagonist set amongst just pretty regular people. I think something that, and I find that refreshing. I think something that is kind of the opposite of that is like the movie Predator, where you have like these extraordinary people that are facing this extraordinary task. But I think it makes a movie more interesting where you have like, well, this is just a person living their life and some supernatural force comes into it. So I thought that was a really interesting concept. Yeah, I would definitely say the atmosphere of the movie, even in the moments where you're supposed to be kind of put at ease, there's still like that background of dread where you're like, this is slowly coming, but like something bad is gonna happen, you know?
It
There's
could be a
never
couple miles away, but
Yeah.
it's on its way. I felt that.
Exactly. So there's never like a moment where you just get a break. There's always like a constant, slow sense of dread throughout this movie, which I think really, really does a favor to the movie. So, yeah, but overall, I thought it was good. It's a solid horror movie. And I think this movie just kind of makes me think of how much of like the horror genre there is and like how much we've kind of just scratched the surface. Cause I feel like just to take modern action, for example, it feels like a lot of what we're trying to do is copy John Wick, which I love John Wick. But, you know, you kind of know going into a movie what's trying to be produced. But with horror, it's like you never know what you're going to get. And I feel like this is a very good representation of that and just shows how diverse a story can be in the horror genre. So,
Yeah, I feel like the conversation I always have about this movie is when you hear the premise, you think a really crappy B movie, like
yeah.
a movie made in the 80s that you're like, oh, that didn't age well.
Ooh.
Like hearing the premise sounds like not a great movie. And this movie, again, not to like hold it up as a perfect thing. I have plenty of stuff that I'm sure I'll critique as we talk about characters and decisions and all that. But like the thing I always come back to with this movie is it's like, man, I have a lot of respect for somebody who takes a pitch that sounds terrible, but is just really dedicated to the story of it and they make it work. I mean, spoilers, I guess, for some people out there for Midnight Mass, but like on Netflix. But like when you hear the pitch for that show, doesn't it sound like so goddamn terrible? You're like, oh, a guy thinks a vampire is an angel. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life. And then you watch it and you're like, wow, this is incredible. And I feel like I have the same thing with this where I'm like, oh, there's like a monster that's passed through sex. Okay. Yeah, that's a fun little concept, I guess, for like a Friday the 13th style movie. And then this movie is just tonally in like a league of its own, which I have a lot of respect for. So my criticisms that are incoming aside, I want to say that I have a lot of respect that this movie had a wild pitch, but then they tonally played it very straight and were very careful about I don't want to say the reality of it because again, this movie's very dreamlike, so the reality feels flexible. But like, I like that it wasn't in their head campy. They knew, like the director knew what he wanted, and he went and did that. And yeah, one more thing I got to put in the positive column. I didn't want to bring it up because I was sure one of you guys would bring it up, but I love the soundtrack of this movie.
The
It
score is
is
so good.
so distinct, so cool, and apparently like had like a full like vinyl release and everything, so like you can track down that you can track down that score on like Spotify. I'm sure, like, check it out. It might give you anxiety, but it's really good.
But it's
It
good.
it really reminded me of like a Safdie Brothers score. Like I watched Uncut Gems the other day and I was like, I swear this is the same score as Uncut Gems. It's obviously different, but it's like so weird how both movies are oddly very intense and this weird synthy score really adds to it. So it's just an interesting vibe. I don't know, I like it.
I felt like the comparison I kept drawing as I was watching this movie is it made me think of like a John Carpenter film.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like probably like what it has most in common with is like Halloween. But
Yeah,
John
it's definitely very
Carpenter,
Halloween.
yeah, but John Carpenter, like both in the visual style of the film, he felt present, and then the soundtrack felt very John Carpenter-y. Because even in John Carpenter movies where he didn't do the score, there's still like a vibe that whoever did the score seems to capture. So, yeah. I just had to jump in and shout out the score because nobody brought it up. But so
Yeah, absolutely.
pass the buck back to our host Lanton. Forget I'm here. I don't exist.
Where'd you go, Luke? Um,
Sorry, I breathe really loud.
oh my gosh. Okay, you know that sound just registered while we were talking about John Carpenter. That sound sounds like when the thing screams, like when it gets caught and cornered and it makes that sound. That's the sound. Okay. Anyway, there was a whole thing. We had a whole conversation before this episode started where I'm like, that sounds like
Yeah,
something.
I was doing a bit where I kept scratching the foam of my mic. That's what that is. It wasn't me breathing.
Oh man. But yes, so is there anything as far as just like general thoughts in the movie anybody would like to bring up before we kind of transition more into dissecting a little bit about the survivability?
I will throw one because along with Luke, I have a lot of critiques about the characters. One thing that I thought was interesting is that a lot of characters, especially the first guy, what was his name? The first guy who had it first,
Oh, Hugh or Jeff or something like that.
Hugh slash
It's a
Jeff.
classic Jeff Hugh man.
Yeah,
I am
yeah.
Jeff. Human.
Sounds like the knockoff version of Hugh Jackman. Like, hello, this is Hugh Jackman.
I like that characters in this world, which they explored a little bit, you're like, wow, that guy is a straight up dick. But as the movie progresses and you see what it's like to have this thing, you start to more like, I get where he was coming from. Still kind of a dick, but like I don't know, as the movie progresses and you learn what it's like to have this thing and you start seeing, I don't know. So that's a positive note toward the characters where you're like, yeah, you do develop some empathy for the douchey nature of some characters early on because you didn't know what they were going through. Anyways, because I feel like we might throw some shade, I wanted to give one little redemptive arc there.
In case Hugh ever listens to this podcast and is like,
Yeah.
that wasn't fair, guys. It was just a role. No, that's who you are in real life, dude.
I know I improvised everything, but like it's just a part.
Chloroform was my idea.
We brought it on set.
We told you just to explain it to her. Just tell her what's going on.
What are you doing?
Guys at the prop table, like, we could use fake chloroform. Like, we'll write it into the movie. And he's like, it's inauthentic. The
I'm a
audience will
method
spot it.
actor.
Yes.
Call me Jared Leto, man. I got to do it.
That's what people don't
course.
realize. The guy who played Hugh is, in fact, Jared Leto. He's just doing, like, Colin Farrell in The Batman. He's got, like, a ton of prosthetics.
He disappeared into that role. You got to give him that.
Yes.
What can I say? Like, he really, I want to say he morphs into the role, but the truth is he morbs into the role, you know?
That joke was very Morbius. Morbidly Morbius.
Yeah, dude. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a video. I'm assuming neither of you guys saw Morbius because you're not masochists, but I have a video I have to send you. Somebody sent me a clip from the movie and it made me laugh until I cried. I got to send it to you.
Amazing.
Remind me to do that after post podcast. The audience doesn't get to see it. So
you don't get that.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness. All right. So kind of departuring away from just kind of general thoughts, getting more into the meat of this podcast, which is survival. Let's kind of dissect our antagonist. Usually, you know, if we're taking like a slasher movie, for those at home, kind of the format of our podcast, usually like in a slasher movie, there's a killer. That's not always the case in all horror movies, but there's some sort of an antagonist that we like to talk about their strengths, their weaknesses, just kind of, you know, what you're up against in a horror movie. So let's just kind of open the floor up and talk about the antagonist of this movie.
I'd like to say that I think this antagonist is it's almost a near perfect antagonist in my opinion, just because there are plot holes. Like there are things you go like, I don't know about that, but I think even the best antagonists, we do that with Michael Myers. We're like, I don't know. Like, I feel like this one has those moments, but it's still ambiguous enough that it doesn't feel that it feels mysterious and spooky and out there. But it has specific rules enough that it feels real and like it's actually happening. And I think it's perfectly scary in that way where you're like, okay, it can look like anybody, it can be in a crowd, it sticks out a little bit because it's always naked, I guess, but it's
consistently
naked because I don't know, it's a sex demon, so it's on brand for it. But
I will point out this is maybe a bit of a wormhole to jump into, but like,
yeah.
He said it could be like a random face in a crowd to confuse you. And the implication there is like you're in a crowd of people and it gets you there. So, like, what does it look like to everyone else in the crowd when this thing fucks you to death in the middle of like a crowded space?
I would pay good money for the sequel. Let's see that. Show
Where
me.
just some guy collapses on the floor.
Guy must be having a real good day. Anyway, time to get on the subway to go to work.
Why does this always happen on the goddamn subway?
Ah, come on, man. These are new shoes.
I mean, granted, like nobody else in the crowd can see the entity, so I think that
Right.
helps, right?
It yeah, it's like, well, it was self-imposed. The thing is, because the chick at the beginning, her leg was snapped the wrong way. Like, it's crazy. I don't know. I think that's the one kind of weird thing about the antagonist is if it is a public place, not that anyone would be able to figure it out, but I think there'd be a lot of questions and a lot of people, a lot more like authority figures looking for it than are seen in this movie. Especially people are dropping dead for no reason all over the place. So
I mean that this movie for whatever reason doesn't have the guts to explore what happens in a public space. I mean, I guess the closest is it follows her at like her college question mark and tries to follow the guy into the movie theater at the beginning, but like
Mhm.
they're able to get away before anything happens. So like the question's unanswered, but we have to assume like this thing just jumps on you whenever it has the chance. So it's not like waiting for you to be alone or anything. It's just the deaths
no.
in the movie happen to occur when somebody's alone.
Yeah.
And I mean, the people happen to isolate themselves. It's what it's kind of a character choice, honestly.
Yeah.
Because the less people around, I guess it's smart because the less people around, the less chances you'll miss it, you know?
Yeah.
So I guess
I
it
know
kind of
that
makes
girl.
sense.
I guess that girl in the opening, like the thing got inside of her house, and her choice was this happens here in front of my father, or I steal my father's car and drive to an abandoned beach and let it happen there. I guess I understand that choice. I'm not gonna. I mean, on one hand, like depends on your relationship with your father. I guess, like
You're right.
if you're
This was a wormhole.
if you're on bad terms with him, might as well like yeah, he can be in the room while I die. I don't really care.
He's barely in the room while I'm alive.
He's watching his
Fucking
World War
deserve.
II documentaries. He doesn't care about me.
What's that, son? Yeah, whatever you say. Yeah.
Are you
Blonde
winning
mode?
over there?
Are you winning, son? Yeah.
I think so. Feels like it.
Oh man. Well, yeah. I'll jump in real quick. Just as a couple thoughts. As far as the entity that is the antagonist of this movie. I think it was brought up before, but yeah, it definitely is something that is based in the physical world, even though you can't see it. It's not like a ghost where it can just like go through walls or like can, just go through matter or whatever. Like it legitimately has to be confined by obstacles of our physical world. So like for instance, when it tries to get into Greg's house, like it has to break the window and then like it bangs on the door. So, there's that if we're considering survival, there's at least a way that you could create some sort of an obstacle to slow the creature down. It's not like it's just this, you know, omnipotent force that just goes where it pleases.
Yeah, you can
Um,
slow it down because
yeah,
guns doesn't kill it, but guns it does. There's blood spatter. They fall
yeah,
down for a second, maybe. So it's
right.
physical things can be obstacles. I think that's a good point.
I feel like the biggest thing I can contribute to this conversation is honestly just a quote from Predator, which is if it bleeds, we can kill it. So I think this thing bleeds. There has to be a way to destroy it. It's just, the freaking Scooby Gang in this movie can't figure out how to
They
do
didn't
it.
crack the code, man. They
They didn't
didn't.
crack the
They
code.
didn't take off the mask. Yeah.
Like Zoink Scoob, there's like a sex demon after me. Ruh-roh, Raggy. Looks like you're gonna have to have a Rex. Get rid of this thing.
It's like that scene. Do you remember I don't remember which of the live action one it is, but they like go into a place that has like a Scooby Doo like whack-a-mole And every time you hit one of the heads, it says like their catchphrase. So it's like zoinks, jinkies, hey gang, or like whatever. It's just the entire Scooby Gang getting fucked to death by a sex demon, and it's zoinks, jinkies, hey gang.
Oh man, I'm just picturing like in every episode of, or at least most episodes of Scooby Doo, there's like that hallway where they're like running through the freaking hallway into different doors, just the sex demon slowly walking as they're like,
butt ass naked, just
yeah, Fred, what are you doing without your ascot?
They go back and forth. They go back and forth through the same hall 4 times before it goes from one door to another.
I thought it was you, Daphne. That's crazy. You usually walk around in the nude. What are you talking about, man?
Guys, they live in the mystery machine. There's no, like, talking about seeing each other's butts, there's no way the Scooby Gang hasn't seen each other's butts. They live in a van together.
Man. A van down by the river.
One of my favorite video compilations about Scooby Doo, talking about wormholes, is there's like a video, like from, I don't remember which one it is. There's been so many different versions of Scooby Doo, but there's one where somebody, like Fred's introducing himself to somebody and he goes, "Hi, I'm Fred." And they go, "Oh, like Freddy." And he goes, "Well, only the people I'm dating call me Freddy." And then it's a compilation of all the times everybody in the gang called him Freddy. It's like confirmation. They're just like a giant, like,
it's a commune.
How many of them are they?
There's
5 of them.
Thelma, Daphne, Fred, Shaggy, Scooby. So 5.
Yeah, so they're a quintuple.
Oh, there you go. Okay, I don't know.
Scrappy comes in every now and again just to join the fun.
Scrappy's he has to stay outside of the van.
Scrappy's an incel piece of shit. They don't let him near anything.
Puppy power. Yeah, whatever, dude.
That was a good one. To add another thought to this overarching conversation, in the favor of the It Follows ghost, and it doesn't ever do this, but the guy at the beginning very clearly states it does do this in a way, but it's like the ghost can take on the form of people you know or love to get closer to you. But the thing is, in this movie, every time it's appeared, they've known for the most part that that's the thing. But this thing could just look like your friend and knock on your door, and you're like, "What's up, friend?" And I guess it did do that with the mom.
How it got
I
Greg.
forgot about that part.
How it got Greg.
But that's a big. I think that's a big check in its box where it's going to be difficult to know it's coming. Like, I feel like in a lot of the sex cases that we didn't see, kind of the prequel to this movie, people had no idea they had this until they were getting fucked to death. So,
oh my gosh.
I mean,
sorry.
So you said we were going to circle back to Q being kind of an asshole. Like, he specifically at one point says to Jay, like, during that really fucked up scene where he chloroforms her and then ties her to a wheelchair, which is like terrifying on its own. On its own.
Absolutely.
He says at some point during that scene, like, "I'm telling you this because I care about you." Like, when I heard that this watch through, I had a really creepy feeling of like, what about the girls he doesn't care about? You know?
Right.
And so, like, and I mean, in the end, what got Greg is like he was a non-believer. Think about all the people who just maybe don't know. Like Hugh said that like nobody told him. Like he figured out the rules after, like it just showed up one day after a one-night stand, and he had to figure out the rules on his own.
Dang.
And the main characters in this movie multiple times do this to those guys on the boat and to those prostitutes. Like it happens.
But it's like a big question mark in the end.
I guess
right?
that's true.
We have no idea
if it is or not. Yeah.
We don't know if she slept with the guys on the boat. We don't know if he slept with that prostitute. Like we
is
genuinely.
Ambiguous. You're right.
Not to be that guy, but like
when I watched it, I was like, yeah, I took it as they did, but I that's true. It is ambiguous. So I guess that you don't know. That's a good point. But yeah, there's many people in this line of death that probably don't know it's coming until it happens. Like the fact that it was explained to her, again, super douchey guy, but the fact that he was like, "Hey, I'm explaining this to you," I'm like, "Hey, that's something," you know. be easy just to not do that. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot more
Yeah.
that could be said about that, but we're not talking about the characters yet.
definitely.
Not yet. Not yet.
No. We got to save that.
Save it for the next dish. But yeah, I think there were just like two things as far as the antagonist that I wanted to bring up that I had thought about this watch through. One of them is that the antagonist has some sort of level of awareness and intelligence. Like, for instance, when they have the idea of like drawing it into the pool, like instead of just getting into the pool, like the thing starts throwing stuff at Jay. So, and I mean that could just be instinctive, but I think perhaps there is some sort of level of intelligence there where it can kind of see through some traps. I'm not saying it's getting its PhD. Maybe it is. I don't know. Maybe that's the whole reason.
That's the real reason it was at Jay's college.
Sex demonology, PhD.
And that's
A little license.
even what you brought up earlier where it uses the rock to break the window. Like that's such a simple thing, but it does show there is intelligence. It knows things about windows. It knows things about pools. Like
It can
it's
break.
been around.
Do you want to know one of my favorite things I read online that was like, I'll tell you guys what it is, and then I'll tell you my reaction to it. I did read online that apparently in an interview somewhere, maybe some like convention or something, somebody asked the director like about like Adam's thing, like, oh, you get on a plane, you go halfway across the world, no problem. Apparently the director like told somebody like like this thing understands how the world works. You think this thing understands how the world works. You think it can't just get on a plane? Which is like one cool edge to this villain, but two, my reaction to that was just like, what are you fucking kidding me? Like
We're giving
Keep
it
it
too much.
ambiguous, please.
how OP is this thing that it's like I like
Oh.
on one hand it's kind of cool that during the course of the movie it has no like discernible weakness, but there does come a point where it's like, oh, shut up, dude. Like
That's a little bit too much power to be given this character.
where the director's like, oh, it'll just get on a plane. Like, nah, dude, come on.
Man, that's funny. When you said
It's
that,
like,
it,
yeah. Sorry,
Sorry,
it's
go ahead.
just like sometimes when people talk about Superman and they're like, he will literally blow up the sun. And it's like Superman has to like have a line somewhere. Otherwise, how is he interesting as a character?
Right. Yeah.
If he doesn't have a limit that can be pushed. That's so boring. So yeah, it's or like when you're, you know what's a better analogy is like when you're playing like, and I probably did this more as a little kid than anybody in my circles, but like when you're a little kid and you're playing and like you like fake shoot somebody or you like fake stab somebody or something, and they're just like, well, that didn't hurt me, so it doesn't matter. It's like the
Yeah.
director's doing that with the creature. He's like, well, that wouldn't hurt the creature, so the creature would just like get on a plane. So I guess you're dead now.
Well, when
Your
I
plan
first
doesn't make
saw
sense.
this movie, that obviously came to my mind, but in my head, I imagined it doing like the Pirates of the Caribbean walk through the ocean because it can't drown, which is
Right.
still scary because it's still coming. So, like, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm with you. It doesn't have to get on a plane to still be a scary thing. Like, it's still
Yeah.
coming. Maybe you have a
It's-
couple years because it's got to get over the what do you call it? The
Marianas Trench.
Trench and all that
Yeah.
shit. But it's coming. Like, it's just
Yeah.
gotta meet
It's-
some anglerfish first.
Yeah, it's so much cooler to imagine it fucking just walking along the bottom of the ocean than imagine it with a fucking ticket just like sitting in coach. Like
I know exactly. Getting scanned with the TSA scanner while it's naked. Just, sir, please hold still. Oh man, that is funny. But yeah, I mean, I guess another kind of weakness is that it and maybe this got brought up before, but this entity just walks. It doesn't run. It doesn't sprint. It's not like on a motorcycle. Apparently, it can get on a planes, but other than that, it just takes a very leisurely pace to life, and I guess that's something that's a weakness, but also something I admire. Just kind of goes at its own pace.
Slow and steady wins the race,
honestly, the biggest thing you can say in its favor in terms of like its pace is it's hard to feel a sense of urgency when you see somebody just like lackadaisically walking towards you. Like a great example is that really the beachfront scene, right? The first one where they're all up at the cabin or whatever, and you see what's her face walking towards the beach, and you're like, oh,
Mhm.
whatever, that's what's her face. And then there's that brilliant reveal where it like cuts to the reverse, and you realize that what's her face is actually swimming out in
Yeah.
the ocean, and you're like, fuck, that's the thing. Like, um, so there is like benefit to that, right? Because if you see your friend walking towards you, like, oh, whatever, that's my friend walking towards me. Versus if the creature was like always sprinting, you get like a get out moment where there's suddenly just somebody sprinting at you, and you're like, the fuck? Like,
Tom
yeah, like,
Cruise. No.
yeah, exactly. But yeah, like if I like looked somewhere and was like, is Adam walking down the street towards me? That's weird. I didn't know he was in town or whatever. Uh, versus if like a creature that looked like Adam was sprinting at me from down the street, I'd be like, "Fuck, something's terrible. Something's
Yeah.
terribly wrong."
Yeah. That's good.
Worth. I feel like that's worth thinking about. I don't.
Yeah, for sure.
I,
It's
I,
Here's something I want to define with you guys. There's a scene. They're
Mhm.
driving away from the house. It's an old man, again, fully nude, standing
roof,
on a
yeah.
roof, not moving. And I
Yeah.
wanted to pick you guys' brains because in that moment I was like, why isn't it moving? Like, isn't it always supposed to walk slowly? Like, is
it's
it
actually not the
realizing
creature. It's just some guy.
maybe it's not even the creature?
Mr. Peterson, get down from there. I'm letting it air out. Thought I saw my
Feeling
paper up in the
swampy
gutter.
It's
I
real
thought
hot.
I thought that's where you were going, Adam. I thought you were
I
about
wish I
to.
was. I wish I was. But no, I was
That's
just saying,
amazing.
it can stop sometimes. Why does it do that? But
Yeah.
that's a good explanation.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't know. So maybe
Yeah.
there's a way to make it stop.
Maybe. I don't
I
know.
don't know.
Maybe it's kind of like the whole mind games of it taking the form of somebody that you love. It just kind of, I don't know, likes to play with you a little bit. So, like, obviously its goal is to kill you, but, along the way, maybe it just kind of stops and smells the roses naked on a roof. You know what I mean?
Maybe.
Well, Hugh does have a line, right, where he says, "I swear sometimes like the form it picks is just to mess with you."
Mm.
Like it
Right.
has a sense of clearly this creature has a sense of like what form would look innocuous to you, but it also like appears to just be cool with freaking you out. I mean, that super tall guy, it looks like sometimes is pretty freaky.
Yeah.
The little kid that like
Yeah.
the jump scare in the movie
Hmm.
So
just
like
to scare him.
yeah, so fair to say that sometimes it does something just to like freak you out. And arguably like there's a place for that because the girl at the beginning gets so freaked out that she just lets it kill her on the beach.
Yeah.
Like
So it is kind of like a strength. And I mean, I think anything that wants to play around with you, I think it can be a strength and a weakness at the same time. Because in that case, again, he wasn't walking, which is it's not a big deal because he's still gonna walk, but it is a moment where you're like, he's not always walking towards me. I guess I don't know.
well,
It's a
and
small thing.
like we talked about like it is bound by like the physical rules of the world. So if you built a safe in like the friggin' uh like inside of a friggin' dam that's like, 15 football fields of concrete and you locked it inside, like I don't know how easily it gets out of that. I'm assuming it will tunnel through the concrete and get to you somehow because
Just claw through it.
because the director decided this thing is like stupid OP. So like I'm assuming it gets out eventually, but like burying it at the center of a giant block of concrete, that's got to do something, right? That's got to buy you at
Right.
least like a year.
Yeah,
You'd hope, yeah.
like we said, there's obstacles, and I think that is its biggest weakness. I
Mhm.
can't think of anything more.
Yeah. We just got to get it immobile,
Distance
put a
plus
funnel in its mouth, and then just pour concrete.
Then you can always hear it. It can never sneak up on you.
Yeah, just put a bell around its neck.
just those Coke cans, just
Incoming.
Lasso. Yeah.
Here's another thing. Can you
Mhm.
do the Invisible Man thing where she dumps paint on it? You know how
they-
the
Yeah, they do the
curtain-
sheet. Yeah, they
Can
do
you just
or
dump some
whatever
paint
that is.
on it? I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe.
If it changes forms, will it go away? I don't know.
I mean, you put the paint on it, but then it walks along the bottom of the ocean to get to you, so the
Yeah.
paint washes off.
That's why you put Flex Seal on
foiled
that bad
again.
boy. Boom.
Show you the power of Flex Seal.
Checkmate.
Show you the power of flex tape. We taped the entity to a door.
It's not going anywhere.
It's like a college prank.
Oh man, that's awesome. Goodness. Oh goodness. So as far as, unless anybody else had something to contribute about like the antagonist, this might be a good segue to get into actually talking about our characters, some of their choices, some of the things that we liked, some of the things we didn't like. So why don't we kind of move into our characters, the actual victims of our movie?
Well, Adam held up a finger like he might have one more thing to say about the creature.
Oh yeah, sorry.
It's really important and
Good.
a really big deal.
Mm-hmm.
If it changes forms, it gets larger and smaller legs. And so if it's a kid, it will walk slower.
I was actually going to point out that like its walking speed depended on which form it took. Because like
Yeah,
when
exactly.
it was Greg, that thing actually moved pretty quick. Like he was like power walking.
That's true.
The old lady was going at a snail's pace. Like
Yeah.
it doesn't have a consistent miles per hour.
Yeah.
Yeah, you wouldn't be able like to get a good sense of it, you know? Like you could
Maybe that's a strength that you couldn't time it.
Yeah,
Mm.
like I think that's a point in its favor
Ooh.
because if you go like 500 miles away or whatever, and you time how long it takes to get there,
It's gonna
and
be
then you
inconsistent.
go 500 miles in the other direction, time it again, it wouldn't be the same. It would be vastly different. Maybe when you can't see it, it's like a freaking cheetah. Who knows? Like
Yeah.
it's like those videos where it's like Michael Myers when the camera's not on him, and he's like a million
Sprinting.
miles an hour. Yeah.
Or I guess it could just take a taxi.
If
Or
it can get on
apparently
a
a plane.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Anyways, I made that as a joke, but it actually became kind
Yeah.
of a valid strength.
There's something
so-
there. There's something there. Some
You can't-
logic.
I can't beat it. I can't outsmart it.
It's
There's
big brain
nothing you
time.
can do.
I love creasing my forehead to make it look like my veins are popping.
It's my front butt.
Oh my goodness, that's awesome. Oh man. Okay, so kind of getting more into characters. What were some good choices, some bad choices, some things that were like, yeah, that was cool, or that was not so cool? What do you guys think?
All right. I've been holding on to this for a minute.
Good. Let it rip.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Let
the
it
same thing.
loose.
Let it rip.
Can the men in this movie stop being so goddamn horny
Never.
Dude, they're all
for
horn
like
dogs.
3 minutes?
Oh my gosh, I know. Greg's like, you broke your arm. Let me give you some sexual healing in this hospital bed.
Paul's
Literally?
like, why didn't you choose me?
Paul's like got the cafeteria tray
I
with the
liked
jello
you.
outside of the room. Just, you freaking guys, I hate you.
According to the shot that leads up to that, there's a large window in her room that anybody out in the hall can fully see into her room, and they know what's
man.
happening.
Well, that's the thing. They're talking afterwards, and they're all like, "Did you see it?" Like, I guess it was part of the plan a little bit too, but I don't know. It was weird.
They said, "Did you see it?" Because like it was an exhibitionist thing. So that was the goal all along. No,
Freaking
but it's
antagonist.
like,
Sorry, go ahead.
but like I don't think Paul has a single scene in this movie where he isn't talking about how much he wants to bang Jay.
He was the worst character. I hated Paul.
And the crazy thing is, based off of everything I've read online, like from the director, like you're supposed to root for the relationship between Paul and Jay. Like he's supposed to be the good guy, the one who
He's
like
the
loves her
nice
and
guy.
yeah, like he's supposed to be the guy that like actually loves her and cares about her. And it's like every scene is just him talking about how bad he wants to bang her. He's like, sex demon or no, come here, babe. Greg's so hot for this chick, he bangs her in a hospital bed, which is the creepiest thing I've ever seen, by the way.
Nasty.
You want to talk
Nasty.
about scary parts of this movie? Forget any scene with the entity in it. The scariest part of this movie for me was watching Greg and Jake get it on in a hospital bed.
The button's just going crazy. The adjustable bed. Oh no, she's having an emergency. A cold blue. Blue balls.
He's actually having the automatic bed do the work for him. They're both lying still, just
Oh, just the guy that's behind. There's like another person in the room. Just, can you guys please stop? Please got my tonsils out.
It's a shared room.
Exactly.
Some guy who just had a friggin' appendectomy is like, "Are you guys for real? This couldn't have waited."
I'd rather have a sex demon.
Do you know how they clean these sheets? It's not sanitary. You do not want to be having sex in this bed.
And I think in the logic of the movie, she goes home like a day later. So like,
yeah, right.
Couldn't have just waited.
Couldn't have. Too much.
no time, baby doll. No time.
Baby.
I have a specific scene that kind of bugged me. So, there's a scene where another reason that Paul is the worst. She comes down the stairs. She's like, "Oh, I can't sleep by myself. Can I come sleep by you?" And then they're talking. Boom, broken window. And Paul's like, "I gotta check on your sister," and he just goes upstairs. Like he checks out the window. He's like, "Wow, no one's there. I better go upstairs and leave you alone for 3 minutes."
Dude, yeah, like his line is literally, "Well, whoever broke it probably ran out." Yeah, because I'm just gonna break a window and then run away.
So he goes upstairs, and she slowly walks into the kitchen, and he's up there for like a long time. So again, I am not convinced he cares about her at all. He just wants to get into her pants.
Probably just taking a dump because he's so freaking
I will
horny.
point out that like Hugh says one of the rules of the creature is that only Jay will see it. And we know from previous scenes that she knows this is true.
Yeah.
Because like when she's at the college and the old lady's walking towards her, she asks other people like, she's like, "Do you see that?" And everybody's like, "No." So like she knows that's the rule. And then Paul goes in and is like, "I don't see anything." And she's like, "Yeah, of course he wouldn't." That's how it works.
But even if he didn't, like, it's just weird that he's like, "I'm gonna leave you alone now that you're traumatized and possibly schizophrenic."
I also want to point out this you know what, this isn't entirely relevant, but like if this movie is supposed to be some sort of sexual night terror, like as the director seems to think it is, during that scene, there's a weird amount of time spent focusing on the fact that the entity appears to be peeing its pants.
Oh, yeah.
And that is off-putting and weird and a little scary, but the more distance you have from like the shock of the moment, the more you're like, why?
Why is that a thing?
I think the demon rolls the dice on, kind of like the fetish dice. It's like, maybe they're into pee, and then they try it and they're like, they weren't into pee. We're gonna try the next thing.
It's like they're playing D&D and they're like, "Let me roll an intimidation check." Oh, that was a 13. So like, I guess she's intimidated, but there is something weird going on too. Like, something more puzzling than intimidating. Yeah, I mean, the only explanation that I could think of is that the demon was taking the form of somebody it killed, and that particular woman in the moments before her death was so scared that she peed her pants. But then why would the entity mimic that? There's no good reason for it.
That's regular behavior. Just like, yeah, pee wherever, man.
I mean, here's the thing. The entity can look like anyone, right? Like, it doesn't do a scan of you and then you're uploaded in its database or whatever. It just automatically can be anyone, which means it can be a version of that person that isn't scary and isn't peeing their pants.
Right.
But like we said, maybe it did it just to fuck with her, It did it to intimidation. I don't know. It was just weird and it threw her off her focus.
I liked your explanation of that, Adam. It's like, it's just guessing, and it's like, oh, that didn't have the impact I wanted.
She is not into pee. Maybe she has a weird thing about her father. Nope, she wasn't into that either.
However, apparently it nailed like Greg's relationship with his mom. I would like talk about rolling the dice to see what would be effective. It knew exactly what buttons to push with Greg. Apparently,
Greg was easy to read.
Yeah.
That guy screws in hospital beds. I think I know what this guy needs.
Just doing like a little bit of... Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. It was just like, have you seen that like meme where it's like a map of the United States, but within each state, it says like the number one searched porn term, like porn topic for that state?
Yeah.
It's just right over Greg's house. It's like moms in hospitals.
Moms in
Oh,
hospital
no.
beds.
Well, it's like in that meme, I like I would love to check into the validity of this meme because there's always one state that's something truly weird. Like the last time I saw one of them in Oklahoma, it said Goth Hospital,
Ooh.
which incidentally, I did look that up afterwards and was not disappointed. But
You're part of the problem, Luke.
I
You're part
found
of the
out that there
problem.
was a goth hospital in Tulsa.
look, sometimes you don't know something's going to be a thing for you until like
Gotta try it.
it's available.
Yeah, right.
That
And
was
then
this
you're
whole
all in.
movie for me. Yeah.
Yeah.
This whole movie was an awakening.
Wow.
And it was an awakening for a certain 13-year-old back in 2014.
She now works at the Goth Hospital, I just found out. So
Oh
it's
man.
crazy.
Goodness.
Man, I bet I know her. Anyway, the goth community the goth hospital community is surprisingly small.
I just want to add on to this scene because this whole scene, even though it was a terrifying scene, and with scary movies, I always give it the pass if it's scary, whatever. But she then runs upstairs, which I always think anyone who's running away from a monster are like, I'm gonna run upstairs. You're basically cornering yourself. So I thought that was another stupid decision. Her friends are up there, so maybe she was worried about their concern, but the scene didn't really read that way. It's like go out the front door, get in the car like you do a lot in this movie, drive a while, get on your bike like you do later. But instead, she's like upstairs, locking the door. I'm safe, which the logic doesn't make sense to me.
I feel like as much as he's not a super nice guy, Hugh might have like the best survival instinct out of anybody we see in the movie who is being followed by the entity. Because like we see the house that he stays in, which is like rigged up to like he would know if somebody's coming. Literally as soon as he passes it on to somebody, he apparently skips town just to like buy even more time.
And giving her the lowdown was almost a way of making it longer because she's running away from it. So like that almost buys him more time too,
Yeah.
which is interesting.
Well, and there also is something interesting where he says like he has rules about it, right? Because he
Yeah.
tells her like never go somewhere with only one exit. And then when she turns up on his doorstep, he's like, you should never have multiple of us in the same place.
Yeah.
Like he set up his own like rules and systems. And I think that that's logical because Jay is a very sympathetic protagonist. And obviously, like, I made the mistake of going online, and I know that this movie is like, a metaphor for like other things. So like what now that I know like the larger metaphor at play, like her character hits different when I watched it this last time. So she is very empathetic and very relatable, but she is kind of always just flying by the seat of her pants.
Yeah,
And like
exactly.
I don't know, like she gets good advice along the way, and doesn't really do anything with it, I feel like. I mean, he even tells her, he's like, I feel like, he even tells her, like, if you drive somewhere, that gives you some time to think, and kind of come up with a game plan. And we see her consistently just drive places and get far away and then just like sit around. Like they go to the cabin and I guess she learns how to shoot a gun. And that's the most preparation that happens. Other than that, they just wait at the cabin for it to show up. So yeah, like I don't know. She's not an unlikable protagonist, but there is that thing of like, at least have a plan, like
Yeah.
her thing is just constantly, I will go here. And then she goes there and just like waits. I don't know.
Yeah. Good point.
It's fair.
So yeah, criticism of her and criticism of both Greg and Paul, especially Paul, because Greg doesn't buy into it. So like when he has sex with her and then he dies, it's kind of like, well, but he never bought into it. So I get why that happens.
Yeah.
Paul has sex with her fully knowing and fully believing and having witnessed like the power of this thing. Like, look, here's the thing, guys.
Yes.
Believe it or not, I can get horny. And a lot of people don't seem to believe that about me. I don't really know what the deal is with that. But I don't think I've ever been horny to the point where I'm like, this girl has a sex demon chasing her, but I still gotta hit it. Like, I don't. Like, I have verified for a fact there is a supernatural entity trying to kill her, and if I have sex with her, it will also try to kill me. Worth it? I don't. I mean, worst case scenario, have a relationship with a girl that's entirely sexless. If you really love her, I don't know.
Here's a wormhole. Here, here's sex as in its full form, and here's a platonic relationship. Where's the line? Is a
For me personally,
no for when the demon comes to kill you? Like,
But I would also like to know that, Luke, if you could say that on camera.
my person,
just for our personal
Just for my notes.
documentation. Yeah.
So what is the line for me personally when a relationship goes from platonic to
Sexy.
something else?
Yeah.
I guess a conversation happens in which we agree we are no longer friends, we are partners.
All right, the DNR. I like it.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
DNR.
Sorry, DTR.
That was Department of Natural Resources has to get involved.
I was thinking
to-
DNR, like do not resuscitate.
Yeah,
I was like, that's very telling about what
that's-
Adam thinks of
That's my job.
relationships.
That's
right.
actually my job. I work with DNR law.
So would you put
DTR.
would you put a DNR on me? Yeah. So I guess we're in a relationship now if you have that much power over me.
What I mean, here's what I mean.
Mm.
Does a condom work if you do it in other holes, hand stuff? I'm just saying, like,
yeah.
again, if you're horny, maybe there's an alternative to getting the demon.
Yeah, Paul could have been like deeply in love with her and been a pal and just like jerked her off, like,
Yeah,
and been perfectly
just
safe.
always a giver.
He's safe,
There you go. Mhm.
I also thought about this. This is truly terrible, but part of me is like hospital sex. I don't know that he would have had a condom ready to go. So I was kind of thinking like, I don't know, if you wore a condom, maybe you don't get the sex demon. Like,
Thwarted. My only
maybe the
enemy,
biggest-
rubber.
maybe the biggest criticism I can levy against these characters is that they don't believe in prophylactics. Like, I don't know. I did think about that. I mean, I assume, and this is a whole other thing, right? But like, it can't just be like straight P and the G contact, right?
Yeah.
That causes it.
It's gotta
Like,
be
because
something.
suddenly, like, the entire LGBTQ plus community is safe, and I want.
They're
want
gonna
them to
just
be
rule the
safe.
world after this sex demon kills all the heteros.
It ravages the heteros and just gets rid of them. But like, I don't know. Like, that's an interesting thing to. So I guess the best way to defeat this creature is just be gay? Question mark.
It comes up to, actually, you know what? I'm into, I'm
I
a
really, really support you, so I'm an ally.
just like it's
Do your
slowly
thing.
like, hey, just a
It was
slow
like-
thumbs up, and then it turns around and walks away.
Slowly
It's
walks
like how
away like
the-
Hannibal Lecter.
It's like how the Babadook director revealed that the Babadook is a gay character, and you're like, does that what does that do? Like, how does that change the character?
I mean, like, good for them, but also, like, what does that do for the story?
like the Babadook was always a gay icon. I think we can say that very confidently, even before the confirmation came. But there is
Yeah.
that part of you that's like, how does that change them as a monster? Like,
Yeah.
I will only go after single mothers who were in straight relationships. Yeah, so like that's an interesting question too. Like, where is the line drawn?
Where's
Like,
the line? That's what I'm saying. I don't know.
I don't know. I feel like it would suck pretty hardcore. Like, if you gave say she didn't have sex with you, say she just like gave him a handy in the parking lot, and then the sex demon came after her. Like, first of all, that handy was not a pleasurable experience for her. It's all work. Like, it's just wrist action. So that's like not fun. And then at the end of that, she has a sex demon chasing her. Like, that's bullshit. I'm calling
Yeah.
bullshit on the patriarchal sex demon. So I don't have an answer for that. I feel like I don't know. I feel like if I were to weigh in, I'd say fair is fair. Like, um,
I'd like to know where you're going with this.
if I were to weigh in, I'd say fair is fair. This sex demon is equal opportunity, meaning that if you have the sex demon and you no, I got nothing. I started it. I was on a locomotive and I was building the track as I went, Buster Keaton style, and I've
Yeah.
got nothing. I don't know where the line is. I'm just look, I explained very clearly at the beginning of this. The sex I have is all in theory. So like in terms of the practical application of this, I don't know what to tell. It all just gets complicated too quickly, you know? And I'm
Yep.
just yep. That's just it. That's just it for me. So
Nice.
I don't think there's an answer to that question. I do think
Yeah.
you know, I think it just leaves the potential of you don't have to live a horny life if your girlfriend has a sex demon. You can still find fulfillment in other places.
Yeah.
So that's a pro.
There you go.
I mean, like, not to be like super like pessimistic or anything, but I just kind of want to have a discussion with Paul where I'm like, everybody has somebody they knew in high school that they thought they were in love with. And there's a remarkable thing that happens as you grow older, which is you figure out, nah.
Then you're like, why did I get a sex demon with this girl?
You're gonna bring a sex demon into
really
this
regret that.
for a girl
Oh,
you
man.
kissed once in a public pool.
Yeah.
Come on.
Then you tried to kiss again and she rejected your kiss and then you got laid somehow.
She slept
I don't
with
know how it
your
worked.
neighbor
Yeah.
and he died. And
This
it
is
was just
not a
lot.
good, it's not going to last long. I'm with you. I'm a little pessimistic about that working out.
Yeah.
Like I said, I think the biggest bummer about reading up on this online is that like that's supposed to be like an optimistic relationship. And I'm like, no.
Not really.
It's going to end in 3 months.
Oh goodness.
When they both die.
Yeah, when they're both killed by the demon.
Yeah. It's a really weird threesome with the sex demon. Maybe that's the way to vanquish it. Everybody tried to face it alone. What you really got to do is just like run a train on that bad boy. And it's done for. You know what I mean?
Oh,
Go
I'm just
The
imagining
full
this.
Eiffel Tower, you know?
Oh, geez, dude. I'm just imagining a scenario where it like thinks it has you cornered. It's like, I actually brought some friends. Like, huh?
It's like that picture where
Oh no.
that was a meme, you know where I'm going?
I
Sitting
know
on the
what the-
couch, all the guys
Yeah,
behind.
exactly.
The demon's like, oh no.
Oh no,
Yeah,
just
it's
people
that-
coming
it's
out of
that.
like ceiling tiles and like from under the carpet
Yeah.
and like
It's
through a
everybody in the
door.
world that can see it just
Oh no.
at once.
Oh,
Little did you know we were following you.
we've been
I-
trying to get some of that.
Even I mean, jokes aside, the demon obviously exudes strong masculine top energy. What if you just go for it and you're like, maybe you need some love. Let me give it to you.
Who knows?
I don't know. Maybe that would
Yeah.
work.
If
No one
you,
knows
if you
that.
broken.
yeah, if you assume the top position and let this demon go full power bottom for you, like what would that do? You know?
It would get an Adam demon that would follow it around.
The ultimate 180.
The Uno reverse card right back at you.
Bam.
Yeah, this creature is just like the original simp. Somebody had sex with it once and it decided to follow that person. Then that person had sex with somebody else and out of pure jealousy, it decided to follow that person and kill them.
Yep.
That's the real story of this.
That's how it went down. The origin story. Simp.
Speaking of, did you guys know that like apparently I don't remember what studio released this, but apparently the head of the studio has been saying since 2014 that he's like, It Follows 2 is definitely happening. Like
Oh,
he
that's
keeps
great.
saying that even though nobody involved in the movie wants to do a sequel. Like he just keeps
Oh, it's
like
gonna
we're
happen.
gonna do it. It's like, what? Why?
Leave it alone, man. Oh man.
That's all I had to say about that. But isn't that wild?
I like that. That is funny. Just going around the office, everybody's like, "Oh yeah, here he goes again. It Follows 2 is gonna happen." Yeah, keep telling yourself that, man.
Taking meetings with writers all over town. The writer's pitching an original project, and he goes, "Shut up! I don't care. Listen, I need to talk to you about It Follows 2."
Revenge of the Simp. Oh goodness. Oh man. So, as far as characters, was there anything else we felt like we wanted to go over? Anything that anybody wanted to contribute in addition?
Oh, you know what? One final thing.
Mhm.
So, like, one, I feel like we have to acknowledge these characters are pretty dumb. Like the whole like Scooby Doo plan at the end with the pool and like
Oh,
the
yeah.
electronics, and they're just like trusting Jay will get out in time because it's not like electricity travels all that fast.
Mhm.
And it doesn't even end up work because it like throws the things into the pool, and there's just not enough electricity to actually do anything to her. So like,
And they're like, "Oh,
Mhm.
thank goodness it didn't work." I'm like, "This was a very not well thought out plan at all."
and then we get to the section, my favorite section, which is Paul shooting at thin
Oh my
air and
god!
shooting Yara.
Yeah,
Right in the
dude.
leg!
Talk
Okay.
about surviving. Like, it's one thing if like only like I remember I forgot that happened at the end. So when I
Yeah.
went into this movie to watch it, I'm like, well, the only really the only way to be in danger is to have sex with somebody who has the demon. So like, I guess a good way to get out of this is just don't have sex with somebody who has the demon. But
Mhm.
like Yara, as far as we know, is like is probably totally incel. That's what they don't reveal, is that on her little clamshell computer, she's strolling through Reddit on the incel profiles, getting all sorts of like radicalized. But she's like full celibate, like ain't no sex ever. She still gets fucking shot at the
I
end
know
just because
she's
she's wrong place, wrong time. So like,
right.
worth
Also,
pointing out.
there's that shot where she's underwater and he's shooting at the ghost that's holding onto her, and the bullets are like going past her, like the way the camera shows it. I'm like, dude's gonna shoot her in the head. Like,
I
again,
saved you.
Paul
Yeah,
is the
Paul.
worst. I hate Paul.
Paul fully kills her, and the only regret he feels is the regret of not having sexted her before, not having sexed her before he shot her in the face.
Right.
Also, not how bullets underwater work, just
No.
worth pointing out.
Yeah.
But
And also the fact that he gets a second headshot underwater, I'm like, what is this guy? A Navy SEAL? What are we talking about here? Freaking
He's
Paul?
invisible.
what we don't realize about Paul is he is like a perfect marksman, which is how he gets 2 headshots in a row. He just really had something against Yara and needed her to suffer.
Oh no, I can't see he can see
What
the
is it
thing the whole
here?
time.
What is it over here?
Oh no, kill shot. Oh my gosh. Oh man. That's hilarious. But yes, good points. Very good points.
It's good to be back, guys. This is really fun.
Indeed. Indeed.
Back at it again.
All right. Now we're getting into our championship rounds. This is a really fun part of the podcast that we do. Is usually, like in horror movies, you'll have somebody that almost makes it to the end and survives. They're like the last person to be killed. And then there's the person that survives the whole horror movie. So for the second to last person that gets killed, final boy. And then for the last person that survives the film, that survives the whole thing, final girl status. So final boy status and final girl status. So, gentlemen, for final boy status, would you give it to yourself for this movie?
So like what's the baseline we're establishing for ourselves here? Is the baseline like we definitely have had sex with somebody and now the demon is chasing us, or like is there an option out there where we don't sleep with anybody?
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I think it's if you have the demon like on your on your trail. I think that would be fair, because otherwise it's just
Yeah.
like you're irrelevant to the story. You're
Yeah,
just like,
you got to
I'm had
be
sex
part
with
of the movie
nobody.
a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
See, I imagine I'm like the Paul character, where it's like I'm around, I'm in the friend group.
Mhm.
But where I differ from Paul is, one, I'm not as uncontrollably horny, and two, like I probably like I don't know. It's not even fair. Calling myself the Paul is not even fair. If I was in this friend group in high school, I wouldn't still be talking to them at 19. Like
Yeah.
what do I care? Like I got stuff to do, you know?
Right.
I got like I'm doing this podcast. Like guys, I'm so busy.
So busy. Don't have
I don't
time.
have I don't have
I'm
time
bigger
to
than this.
Sex demon. What is this small town problems
Guys,
nonsense
I
you're
go to
bringing to my
audition.
door?
Guys, I go to auditions and they go, "Oh my gosh, you're from Final Boy Status." Like, I don't have time. I don't have time to hang out in your garage and play Old Maid, okay?
Ooh, Old Maid is fun though. I gotta say, that's a good game. You
Lance
bringing that
has
up
no
was
chance
like,
in this movie, man.
Oh no, that's
What do
for
you-
real what they're playing when they're like on the porch playing cards. They're playing
oh, I
Old
didn't even
Maid.
realize that. That's funny.
Um yeah, it's like it's so if I'm treating it like genuinely from my point of view, like I don't get caught up in the plot of this movie at all.
Sure,
Because yeah, I don't have sex with people. People are too sticky. Like
that's a good point.
it's I don't have time for it. I would much rather pine after somebody like from afar, you know? Like I start writing letters to a person. We write letters back and forth. We fall madly in love, but we never touch.
At a lake house.
First of all, shut the fuck up. I'm sorry, Lamson. I don't know where that came from. I didn't mean it. I love you.
It was
Um,
amazing.
That was a no and.
No, and I'm continuing to talk.
No, I think my ideal relationship is like Keanu Reeves and Sandra Bullock from The Lake House. I would like to write letters and fall deeply, passionately in love with you, and I would also like to never touch you.
That's part of it.
Ladies, hit me up. If I put myself in this movie and like I have the demon, I'll give myself final boy status because I'm not going to take it lying down. I do feel like I might get to a point eventually where I'm like, fine, I guess it's time to go. But like, yeah, like it wouldn't happen right away. Like I have stuff I want to do, you know.
Yeah.
You know, I've never been to like a Three Doors Down concert, so
Dude, you gotta go.
I got to check stuff off the bucket list, you know, before I got to finally watch How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. Like I got to just work down my list and before I let that thing catch up to me. So, I'm going to go live my life and let it chase after me for a while, try to stay ahead.
There you go.
So, yeah, final boy status for me. Sorry.
No, you're good. Very nice. Mr. Adam, what do you think?
I'm also going to give myself final boy status. Like Luke said, I'm not going to add too much to it because it was eloquent and beautiful. I'm not going to roll over. I've got this sex demon and I'm going to deal with it. I am a top, so I've got to
Yeah,
live life that way.
Yeah, boy.
You think he's going to take this lying down? No.
I am going to take
standing up.
Standing up doggy style, just rough.
Wait, whoa.
Bending the entity over a table.
Welcome to my house, Grandma.
50 shades on this guy.
Daddy's home. Oh my gosh, just
It's like that thing, Lanson, like your brother used to do with like that foam bat, where he got just like that horrible sound out of it. Like,
oh no. Oh, boy.
sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. Oh, so
What about
yes.
you, Lanson?
Okay, sorry. I was laughing too hard. I didn't even realize that you had said final boy status, that you would give that to yourself. So good for you.
I'm getting lightheaded over here. So much laughing.
Whew, I'm getting lightheaded, guys. Yeah, I'm gonna give myself final boy status. I feel like I'm not just gonna wait for that to happen to me. So I'll just, I don't know, drive somewhere farish away and just kind of continue to live my life. All right. So now that we've gotten that out of the way, for the championship belt, for the title of the final girl, would you guys give yourself final girl status? And if so, how? Or if not, how?
This is such a fascinating question because like we have to decide for ourselves, like, what does final girl status look like in a universe where you were always being chased? Like,
Mm-hmm.
best case scenario, you die of natural causes before it gets to you, or like, when it finally catches up to you, it's like on your terms, like you're ready to go out, I feel like, because like and like in most movies, like a Friday the 13th, it's clear like what surviving means, right? You leave Camp Crystal Lake, you get to live the rest of your life and die of natural causes. This is much more ambiguous, right? Um, so I guess like if final girl status is just you get to go out on your terms, you know? Um,
Not influenced by the fear or the pressure by the so I would say the girl at the beginning who just kinda lets it kill her, I would say that's not final girl status. But kinda like you said, either you reach the end of your life and let it kill you, or natural causes, or you're ready to go, but not influenced by the fear and the pressure of it.
yeah, like, and I feel like I've alluded to it a couple times, but like the director straight up said that this whole movie is like a metaphor for like the inevitability of death and like the anxiety and depression that can cause you, and like that's already something that weighs on me, like so I feel like in terms of like living your life and living above the fear and meeting it on your terms, this is getting weirdly sentimental, which is interesting because earlier we were
Mine
talking
won't
about
be, so don't
yeah.
worry, audience.
Do it.
It's interesting to be sentimental when earlier I was talking about how the Scooby Gang has seen each other's butts, but um, I think like the best case scenario for this is you rise above the fear and the anxiety and the depression of knowing that your death is an inevitability, and you still do something beautiful with your life. And I think, like I said, in the way that the movie supposedly puts some optimism in the relationship between Jay and Paul, I think that's a little bit of what the end of the movie is saying, is like you find love and you find ways to sort of push away that fear, that existential dread, and like enjoy your life and live above it. So like no, I don't get final girl status in this. I'm just miserable until I no, I'm kidding.
Oof.
All of this like really nice meandering and like this soliloquy I'm on ends with just brutal, like, close but no cigar for me, guys. No, I think, yeah, I think I'm smart enough to stay just a little bit ahead of it and hopefully overcome like the fear and anxiety of it enough to live a good life and enjoy myself, and maybe potentially die of old age or natural causes before it catches up to me, or maybe yeah, I just meet it on my terms and I get to have a moment where I say like, I had a good life and it's time to be done now. So I'll give myself final girl status, just like trying to stay one step ahead of the thing. And I think if anything, there's like a freedom in like feeling like death is imminent, where it's like if you live every day like it might be your last, that could be a life worth living. I'm sentimental enough to believe that. So maybe with this thing on my tail, I end up living a really good life. I see the world, I experience a lot of different things. I mean, I stop having sex, obviously, because like that's just mean, you know. Um, but that's okay. I'm writing letters to Sandra Bullock. So I think that's my take on it. I think my victory against this thing is that I don't pass it on, but I still see the world and live a life where I do things that feel meaningful. That'll be my victory.
Nice. I like it. Very nice. Mr. Adam, would you give yourself final girl status? Excuse me.
I would.
Ooh, do tell.
I call it my scientist friend,
Okay.
who's a real person that I have in real life.
Yeah.
And he's is specifically in the nuclear science division of science, and he builds me a nuclear powered jazzy scooter, and I ride that scooter at a good 6 miles per hour all around my town, and I don't leave the town, and I don't stop driving that scooter the whole entire time. The thing is always 5 feet behind me, but I've got enough speed that it never catches up.
Just a nuclear bomb on this little rinky-dinky scooter in this slow little dinghy.
Exactly. And once I'm ready to go, like Luke said, I'm like, wow, I have seen a lot of this town. I have had a lot of great experiences.
Just the town.
I flip the button, the big red button at the top, and I go nuclear, baby.
Oh,
Take the monster and the entire town with you.
man.
Exactly. That's
So
how I
eventually-
win.
So
Everybody
eventually
goes
you get
down.
to a point where like, I've seen enough of this town. It's time for this town to cease existing.
I just love how that's like the capstone of your life. I've seen enough of this town. I'm ready to go. Their Wendy's is pretty all right. Nothing to write home about. Walmart could be bigger.
Their
Oh,
garden
man.
section is not the greatest.
You
but,
do
know.
not have a wide selection of potted plants. I am disappointed.
I'd have to go to the next town over to see any decent concerts. So
Oh yeah, dude. Whew. That is amazing. Goodness.
that Wendy's thing got me so good. God, that's really funny. Sorry. Both of you guys. I love spending time with my friends.
Oh goodness. Okay. So big surprise. I'm giving myself final girl status.
How does
There's
he
one
do
or
it every
two-
time? How does he
No,
do
man.
it?
How does it happen?
Unstoppable. This guy takes the title every time.
Oh man, what can I say? I'm uncharted. Anyway. So there's one of two ways that I do this. I can imagine me being a good person and me just being a total dirtbag. So let's go with the dirtbag answer first.
Great.
So I find out about this from Hugh. And I just start like I'm putting up Wilt Chamberlain levels of debauchery of just sexual partners that I'm just spreading this far and wide. Like I'm staying far enough ahead that this thing doesn't catch up to me, but I'm like going in a new city in a new day, every single day is a new partner, new city, just absolutely spreading this thing. So I kind of have like, I don't know, hundreds of people of insurance of like, if it kills one person, it goes to the next and the next and the next. So I buy myself some time till I'm like an old man that's dying of getting his brain eaten by syphilis. And then, at that point, the thing won't even want me. It's just like, this was the payoff. So many years of walking and killing other people just to get to you. That's right, baby doll.
Oh,
And then
I
I kill
think-
myself.
This actually is an interesting rule that we never even got near the subject, but
Yeah.
Is it like you can only pass it to one person, or can you
Uh-huh.
have sex with a bunch of people
I
and
don't know.
pass it to everyone?
I don't
Like,
know.
is it just like a straight one-to-one chain?
Well,
Like, I have sex with a person, now it's on them. So, like, if I go have sex with another person, that doesn't do anything? Like, that's a great question.
yeah. If the
We're thinking-
friend group had an orgy, would they all be able to see it?
Yeah,
Is
if
what
they
you're
went
saying.
full Stephen King's It in the
Yeah.
sewer.
Just took turns.
you know what? I'm gonna find out, boys, in this reality. Okay.
on this reality show that you pitched to MTV.
It follows. What's up, my
Featuring
dude?
Lance and Lappin.
I'm just
MTV
trying.
was not into it. Peacock is interested.
Ooh, all right.
And it's already on
fuck
Showtime.
yeah, dude. What's up, guys? Just trying to find, well, not love, but somebody to pass this off to. Okay, so that's like the dirtbag answer. I think the good guy answer. I don't want to say good guy, but the nice person answer.
Well, I'm a nice guy. Hey, I'm a nice guy.
Hey, I'm a nice guy. But yeah, so I end up becoming an astronaut. I buy myself enough time to become an astronaut. I get on a spaceship, whether it's Bezos, whether it's Musk, whether it's NASA, I don't care. I'm just trying to get on a spaceship. So I get on a rocket, but I make sure, that I get this entity onto the rocket as well. And then once we're in orbit, I full on alien this thing and I just shoot it into the freaking void of space and I'm like, what are you going to do now? And then I go home a conquering hero, having seen space, having seen Mars, and I win. And that thing, it's not going to be able to walk. It's not going to be able to move. Can it survive space? I don't think so if it can get slowed down by bullets. So, you know what, Mr.
drifting.
Director? You didn't think of everything.
Just drifting out in the void.
Exactly.
Going backwards. That is actually genius. I never even thought of that.
Incredible.
Yeah.
So, you know what?
Yeah.
Yes, I will become an astronaut. Years of dedicating my life just to do that. And also being an astronaut, of course. Seeing space is good too, but also getting rid of a sex demon is my number one priority at the
If you can
academy.
kill two birds with one stone,
Yeah.
It's fascinating that you and I went opposite directions. I was like, we bury this thing in like layers and layers and layers of concrete. You were like, no, we need the void.
You can't get out there, bro. Ain't no gravity out there, brother.
Make it question its existence.
It's like, I need to rethink my life. Maybe if I had spent more energy actually developing myself as an entity rather than just chasing people in a bitter way, maybe I could have made something of myself.
I could have built a rocket to come back instead of relying on rocks through windows.
Exactly. Maybe I could have been the astronaut.
Still.
Exactly. Oh my goodness. Well, we've done it again, boys. That is another episode of Final Boy Status. That was a lot of fun. I'm glad that we're back. As we're getting into our shout outs and our plugs and stuff that's going on, I'm just going to plug this show. I have no shame. Final Boy Status. It's a great podcast. We have a lot of fun making it. It's on Spotify, wherever you find your podcasts. We're there. Also, YouTube. Look us up. Final Boy Status. And that is my shout out for the night. What about you, gentlemen?
I don't have a lot going on. I'm also in this podcast. That's great.
Essential. He's essential. He's the glue.
He's the face.
The moneymaker.
Yeah, dude. I got my fingers in some pies. I don't know that anything is at a stage where it can be announced. It's hard too because not everything is something where I'm like a creative force behind it, and that's always a weird game to play, right? Like when somebody invites you to join up on a project and you're like, at what point in time do I start talking about that?
Right.
So I will just plug my social medias as usual. It's a good way to keep up with me and figure out what I'm up to in real time is just to follow me on Twitter. I'm at Luke Haueter, LukeHaueter. Yeah, follow me there. If I'm up to something, I'll be sure to tweet about it.
Nice. Well, thank you guys for listening. We are excited to be back. And yeah, we'll see you next time. Everybody take care.